Good evening, Los Angeles. Wow. President Garcetti, members of the City Council, City Controller Chick, City Attorney Delgadillo, Mayor Reardon, city managers and commissioners, state and county community leaders, students, and faculty of the Accelerated School, fellow Angelenos. It is a fundamental feature of our democracy, a thread so essential that when we see its colors woven into the very fabric of the Constitution, that from time to time, we're entitled to hear directly from our elected leaders and call them to account. To call them to account for the state of things, for the state of our economy, which I'm happy to say is registering record growth. For the level and quality of our government service, which is gaining ground every day with a renewed dedication to performance and fiscal responsibility in the city of LA. And for the state of our safety and security, which thanks to the brave men and women of the Los Angeles Police and Fire Departments is reaching historic heights. But in the end, I think we'd all agree that this day isn't about addressing the state of things as they are. It's about the state of our city as it should be. Over 9 months ago, I stood before you on the south steps of City Hall, and I asked you to dream with me about a different kind of future for Los Angeles, a future where LA's taking the lead as the great global city of the 21st century, a future where people and communities around our city are drawn closer together by a world-class transit system, a future where we're growing greener as we grow, where children can walk to school in safety and where no kid in any neighborhood in any part of Los Angeles is ever robbed of his or her childhood. I asked you to imagine a future where it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, whether you're African American, Latino, Caucasian, or Asian, whether you're gay or straight, rich or poor, where every Angeleno has a chance to show their talent. Ladies and gentlemen, we could have returned to the south steps of City Hall today, but instead, we came to South LA. It is true that from City Hall you can see LA and all its bright lights. You're somewhere in between the east side and the west side, neither in the valley nor at the harbor, but acutely aware of the needs of both. You're bound by no allegiance of neighborhood, except that you're closer than anywhere else, both in physical space and in orientation to the compass, to the original settlement of El Pueblo. City Hall is a beautiful place for an inauguration. But if you really want to talk about the state of our city today, you need to come to South LA. And if you want to catch a glimpse of the state of our future, you need to visit the Accelerated School. Here in South LA, we have many of the residents of our city who work the hardest and earn the least. People who clean hotel rooms, people who sweep the floors, people who watch our children, and for whom time is a thief in the dead of night when it comes to caring for their own families. In South LA, you can view our history up close. You can behold both our feats and our failures. It's here that you can witness the spires of the Watts Towers soaring above the scars of the Watts riots. It's true that from South LA, you can see the skyline and the corporate towers of Bunker Hill reflecting back at you in the distance. On a clear winter day, you can even see the silhouette of the snow-capped mountains. But too many young people here go through life believing that they'll never reach the towers or the mountains. Here in South LA, you see the most pervasive problems Angelenos face. Here you see them magnified. You hear them amplified. Here you sense the frustration every commuter feels in the eyes of a single mom who rides the bus to work every single day. And in raw relief, you can see the shortage of community policing that plagues every neighborhood in our city, from Watts to Woodland Hills, from Toluca Lake to Silver Lake. And while we all live with the legacy of sprawl and smog, it's people in the concrete flats of South LA who really understand the importance of greening our city. And it's here where our public schools are struggling just to survive. It's here where the dropout crisis is most menacing. It's here where the threats of gangs and gun violence are simmering, steaming, on the verge of a boil. In the midst of all of this, it's here in South LA where you find the Accelerated School. Fellow Angelenos, we have a lot to learn about ourselves here in South LA. You see, the Accelerated School is a public school, a charter school, and they run things differently here. They believe that every child is a gift and that every student should be treated like they're gifted. They believe, as I do, that great schools have the power to transform communities. They believe that the culture of low expectations is fundamentally a failure of leadership. And talk about dreaming. This school was founded by two teachers with a dream. And before they built this temple of high expectations, they used to rent rooms in a local church just to hold class. And they went door to door to sign up their first groups of students. Angelenos, I intend to follow their example. I intend to walk door to door myself to fight for fundamental reform in our schools, because I know that the key to the future of this city is to make our schools like the Accelerated School here in South Central Los Angeles. The Accelerated School demonstrates what you can achieve when you accelerate your ambitions, when you're willing to dream big and reach far, when you drive toward the future with both passion and purpose. This is how I've tried to govern in these last 9 months. Been out there every day in every community in every corner of LA. And I'm proud of what we've achieved in this short period of time. But that's not what we're here to talk about this evening. We're here to imagine. Imagine the state of Los Angeles as it should be. 2 days from now, I will present my financial plan for the fiscal year. We're calling it Tough Choices for a Brighter Future. And it's a tough plan. As most of you know, when we assumed office, we inherited a deficit of $295 million. Now, this deficit belongs to no single person. It is accumulated over time. It represents an unfortunate combination of easy choices and short-term thinking. Angelenos, I'm here to say that we need to make tough choices for a brighter future now. We can't realize our dreams if we don't live within our means. We will eliminate the structural deficit over the next 5 years. And my first budget makes a $47 million down payment on that promise. We've identified over $40 million in savings working with Controller Chick. And my budget calls for the creation of a performance unit in the office of the mayor. Patterned after a successful and innovative program developed by British Prime Minister Tony Blair, the mayor's performance unit will scour city departments to improve productivity and squeeze value out of every tax dollar. Now, I said it before and I'll say it again. I'm a proud progressive. But the onus is on those of us who believe in government to demonstrate that government can work better than it does today. We need to accelerate our ambitions. We can no longer afford to hide behind our financial condition to avoid confronting our biggest challenges. We need to stand up and face up to the problem of crime and gangs in Los Angeles. And we all need to own up to the fact that Los Angeles can't thrive as a great global city if we continue to hold the dubious distinction as the most under-policed big city in America. I want to thank the men and women of the LAPD who put themselves out on the streets on our behalf every single day. They do it on the meanest streets at the darkest hours of the night. I'm here today to say that we need to stand with them. Last week, I offered a strategic plan to bring the LAPD up to full force by adding 1,000 new officers over the next 5 years. On Thursday, I will present a budget to the City Council that begins this buildup. This is a historic and complex challenge. As some have said, we face obstacles to recruitment. We face challenges of retirement and attrition. We face a considerable cost. This buildup is going to require our full commitment as a city, and it's going to demand an uncommon exercise of fiscal discipline and political will. As we all know, it's easy for politicians to talk tough. Now it's time to take the tough votes. Angelenos, it's time for all of us to make the tough choices. By asking LA residents to pay a larger portion of the cost of picking up their trash, we can pick up the cost of police buildup over time. We can pick up the 1,000 officers we need. We can pick up the speed of police response. We can pick up community policing in the Valley. We can pick up community engagement in South LA. We can pick up foot patrols on Skid Row, and we can pick up the quality of life in every neighborhood and community of LA. And for those progressives in the room, and because we all know that it's not enough to be tough on crime, my budget is tough as nails on the root causes of crime as well. It includes a substantial new investment in prevention programs, including $2 million for the Gang Recovery Program. It will double the number of city-financed summer youth jobs. It expands library hours. It invests in after-school programs like LA's Best. You see, it is a matter of accelerating our ambitions. And Angelenos, we need to put our foot on the pedal when it comes to traffic. When I ran for mayor, I promised to do the tough, common-sense things to fix traffic and keep LA moving. Working with the City Council, we banned rush hour construction. We're repairing our roads. We're on our way to synchronizing every traffic light in the city over the next 3 years. And in this budget, we're funding critical initiatives to move LA farther and faster. My budget funds a gridlock tiger team, a rapid response unit of traffic officers who will move around the city, identifying and addressing traffic hotspots on our most congested corridors. As you know, we've already deployed traffic officers at our busiest intersections. This budget increases their ranks. We're boosting the budget for street resurfacing and maintenance by 34%. We've placed strong, vibrant leaders in our planning and transportation departments, and they're working hand in glove together to making transit-oriented development and pedestrian villages a reality, finally, in the city of LA. And working with our city council leaders, we're fighting tooth and nail in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. to make sure that LA gets its fair share. And to make sure that we have the resources that we need to build a public transportation system that a world-class city deserves. Working with Congressman Henry Waxman, we've sponsored legislation to repeal the federal ban on funding for the Wilshire subway. It has already been introduced in the House. My office has been in close contact with the governor and the legislature to pass a statewide bond that will provide critical funding for new transit projects in Los Angeles and around the Southland. But to our leaders in Sacramento, I can't say it more clearly. The people are counting on us. We all need to roll up our sleeves and get this funding package on the November ballot. We need to accelerate our ambitions. We need to imagine a future in Los Angeles in which Los Angeles is the greenest and cleanest big city in America. Working with the City Council, we're funding the master plan to restore the Los Angeles River. We'll be breaking ground shortly on our initiative to plant 1 million new trees here in the city of Los Angeles. And because you can't be a great global city if you're not a great global citizen We're cutting our contribution to greenhouse emissions. We're forging ahead with a plan to reduce air pollution at our ports, which account for 21% of the diesel pollution in Southern California. We're committed to growing our port, the engine of our economy, but growing it green. We're adopting and incentivizing green building standards. We're expanding recycling. We're working toward the goal established by my administration of diverting 70% of our trash from landfills by 2015. And we're making the DWP a better steward of our resources by protecting our groundwater and by recycling and conserving every drop we can. Angelenos, we need to face the tragedy, the human tragedy of homelessness in the wealthiest city, in the richest state, in the greatest nation in the world. We're forging a new partnership with the county. We're reforming the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. For the first time, we've fully funded the Housing Trust Fund at $100 million. But importantly, we've invested $50 million in permanent supportive housing for the mentally ill and the chronically homeless. And we're bringing the Safer Cities program to target crime on Skid Row. But Angelenos, I would submit to you that we can do all of these things. We can put more cops on the street. We can work to keep traffic moving. We can green our city. We can make new our commitment to deal humanely with our homeless. But unless we face head-on the crisis in our schools, we will never truly hold ourselves to account. You see, I can't say it any plainer. We can't be a great global city if we lose half of our workforce before they graduate from high school. We will never realize the promise of our people. We won't tap our talent. LA will not be one city if we just shrug our shoulders and adopt the path of least resistance. If we choose to remain a city where 81% of middle school students are trapped in failing schools, we need to accelerate our ambitions. To borrow a phrase from the great author Carlos Fuentes, this I believe. I believe that we need to make our schools more accountable by giving the superintendent far greater operational control. I believe that we need to change the funding equation and move resources from the downtown bureaucracy to the classroom. I believe we need to abandon the one-size-fits-all approach and give educators the freedom to innovate. I believe that teachers should be respected as professionals and that we should give them that respect by giving them the freedom to teach. I believe we need to trim the fat and use the money to beef up teacher pay. I believe that we need to empower teachers by giving them the responsibility for peer assistance and review. I believe that every great school must have a great leader. I believe that we need a new Principal Leadership Academy to develop a new generation of school leaders. I believe in the power of small learning communities. I believe that we need to equip our schools with best practices. We need to vest them with the power to implement change. I believe schools should control their own budgets. I believe more power should devolve to principals, teachers, and parents in their neighborhoods. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I believe we need to lengthen the school day and the year, and we need to compensate teachers for that time. I believe that we need to genuinely engage parents as partners with respect. We need a parent resource center and a parent coordinator in every single school. I believe we need to substantially increase the number of charter schools in the city of LA. I believe we need to replace the culture of low expectations with a culture of accountability and respect. That means uniforms that send our kids a message that they're in school to learn and that we're all on the same team. That means parent compacts that spell out their rights and their responsibilities to be actively engaged in their children's education. I believe we need to get the business and philanthropic communities fully into the act. I believe we need to reinvent vocational education and give our kids more job-based skills as well. I believe we need to better coordinate city and school district efforts for our children. I believe that we need to bring cutting-edge law enforcement tools like CompStat in and around school campuses to guarantee our schools are free from crime and gangs. I believe we need to expand after-school programs and work together on joint use to transform schools into neighborhood centers. Now, some of these ideas are new and some are not. And over the years, we've had many well-intentioned efforts at reforming the educational system. But any student of Reform and LA Unified can tell you that we can't address our problems in the classroom, we won't make real headway unless we change the lack of accountability at the top. I believe we need leadership at every level. I believe we need to wake up and shake up the bureaucracy at the LAUSD. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm asking the California legislature to usher in a new era of progressive reform in the state's largest school district. My proposal is based on 5 key principles. First, The buck needs to stop at the top. Fragmentation is failing our kids. Voters need to be able to hire and fire one person accountable to parents, teachers, and taxpayers. A leader who is ultimately responsible for system-wide performance. Second, all of the cities in the LA Unified need to be fully engaged and given a fair voice in the process. Third, we need to give the superintendent the power and authority to lead and manage fundamental change. Fourth, we need to preserve the voter's voice in an elected school board with that board's powers designed to serve the needs of parents, not politicians. And fifth, we need to strengthen and invigorate the charter school movement, both to give families more choices and to keep positive pressure on the school bureaucracy. My proposal will give the mayors of the cities in the LA Unified a new oversight role in district affairs. A council of mayors whose members with proportional representation will oversee the hiring and firing of the superintendent and approve the budget. This proposal will add accountability by giving the superintendent, not the school board, the authority to direct personnel decisions, grant charters, develop the budget, and design and manage the instructional program. And it will preserve the current elected school board, but it will refine and redefine its responsibilities. They will be put directly in the service of LA's parents. You see, parents need a stronger voice in this process. The elected board will continue to oversee disciplinary and transfer appeals, but we'll ask them to do more than that. We'll ask them to act as advocates for parents and the communities they serve. They will review complaints, create and issue school accountability report cards, conduct an annual survey of parents, and make recommendations based on the results. And their ultimate charge will be to help parents navigate through the system and solve problems with their kids' schools. And because accountability means holding everybody to account, we'll ask the legislature to make these changes on a trial basis, with 6 years to show progress and results. We'll measure what we did and how we did it, and we'll hold ourselves accountable as well. I want to thank all of you for being here today. And I want to close this evening with a message directly to teachers. I know that this proposal will raise some concern and spark some controversy. Change is never comfortable. I understand your fear. It's hard to risk what you've got when you've never had what you deserve. But I want you to know how deeply and passionately I feel about this. I believe that any serious effort to improve our schools begins and ends with you. I've been fighting for public education my entire life. It was a public school that gave me a second chance, and a public school teacher who showed me the path to success. The teachers' union gave me a job, but more importantly, they gave me a calling. I live with a teacher. I know about the rewards and the sacrifices the teachers make. I know how a teacher feels at the end of a long day. I want you to know that I believe we will never fix our schools without raising respect and reward for the teaching profession. Now, I know I'm a dreamer, but I'm not a Pollyanna. I have no illusions. No reform package is a panacea unto itself. We won't get there in a single academic year. And just like my parents, we'll make mistakes along the way. We'll struggle. We'll worry. At times, we'll lie awake at night. But I promise you, we will do it together. And that's why I believe that we will prevail. I believe that we can do right by these kids, just like my mother did right by me, and like your parents did for each of you. My mother, Natalia, raised 4 children on her own, and she nourished us on a steady diet of great books. She loved the works of Shakespeare, and so I'll leave you this evening with a favorite line from The Tempest. We are such stuff as dreams are made on. The state of our city is up to all of us, each and every one of us. Let's remember why we came to South LA today. Let's write a new chapter in the history of progressive reform in our city. Angelino Shakespeare also told us that action is eloquence. Let's match our dreams with our deeds. Let's accelerate our ambitions. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here today.